Hey, this is Lisa with Lisa Grace Wigs, and basically, I was just going to talk today about like how I manage my diabetes. Right now, I loop. So when you loop, you basically have your insulin pump, you have your continuous glucose monitor, and then you have whatever's going to run that system for you. I still have to give myself insulin, like when I'm going to eat or anything like that, or even sometimes correcting. But for the most part, the insulin pump looping system will back off insulin if it sees that I'm going to go low, if it projects it, or it will give extra insulin if it projects that, I'm kind of starting to go on the high side. So this is my omnipod. This is the pump. Yes, I do have quite a bit of bruising right now. I'm not sure why. Just, sometimes that happens with me where I'll have a lot of bruising wherever I have my pump site or my CGMS site. So there's the Omnipod, which has insulin inside of it. I change that every 3 days. I put about 150 units of insulin in it, which is way more than I need. I only need about 20 units a day, maybe, sometimes a little less, but you do have to add more, to fill the cannula and all that. So I add a little extra to it. This over here is my continuous glucose monitoring system. It's a Dexcom G6. So as far as my looping, I have an app on my phone. I use a dash pod, and my son built the app for me on the phone. You can do it with an Apple phone, you can do it with a Samsung phone. Looping is just outstanding. Now, one of the reasons I love it is because it's not FDA approved. And what that means is I can get my settings to a lower amount and get my A1C down lower than I would with a typical FDA approved pump. They put a lot of like safety hard stops in, and you can't put your target number under a certain amount because basically they're afraid you're going to give yourself too much insulin and end up harming yourself. The lowest A1C I've had while looping was a 4.7 or 4.8, which is almost unheard of with a type 1 diabetic. My latest one was 6.2, which is not as good. But I've had some issues lately as far as blood sugar issues and stuff. So I wasn't surprised at that. So it's an okay A1C, but it's not great. I like to be in the 5 range personally. So as far as the app on the phone, so first I had an Apple phone. My son Riley, he built the app for me on the phone using documents from the person who discovered this. It's a pretty amazing story. So this software engineer had a daughter who ended up with type 1 diabetes. And when he looked at all the different pumps out there and just, was not happy with them as far as how basic they were, he decided to come up with a better alternative, and he built the first loop. So I'm very thankful to that person. I think also cost-wise, it's so much less expensive because when you're getting a new pump, which to keep it in warranty, you have to get a new pump every 4 years. I would say the average cost is between $7,000 and $10,000 right now, probably. It was only about $4,000 or maybe $3,500 when I was diagnosed a long, long time ago. So this is very expensive machinery. So for me personally, I did my homework, decided that I wanted to loop, and I started looping, I think it's been about 3 years, and have never looked back. I've just personally had the best control that way. Now my son Riley, he uses a Tandem T-Slim and a Dexcom, and that's how he loops. So he does use the FDA approved pump and everything. And that's what he likes. That's what works for him. And that's great. For myself and my daughter, we have no clue why, but for some reason, the Tandem, my blood sugar runs high for absolutely no reason, no matter what I do with the settings. And I always thought it was odd. They replaced that first pump like 3 times. And then when my daughter started on the same pump, she had the same issue. So just very odd. I know this is not like typical, but So she ended up looping as well. She's been looping for, I think I made myself the guinea pig. So I think I looped for 6 months to a year, and then we got her on a looping system, and she absolutely loves it. She loves the omnipod, she loves everything's just on her phone. She just has to keep her phone with her and within 15 feet, and everything works beautifully. She actually had the best A1C of all three of us this last go around of testing. So she's doing amazing looping. Riley as well, he's doing great on his pump because he loves it. So for me, as far as looping, I did switch at one point, maybe about a year ago, from Apple to a Android phone. So I had to get a whole new app built. So my other son, Davis, he built that app for me, and I've been using that since. And it is, there goes my phone. It is so much more in depth than the Apple looping as far as the different settings. And I've actually been really thankful for going through that process, because the person who made the app for Android, you actually have to go through like 2 months of all these testing and questions, and you start with a closed loop for quite a while before it even will allow you to open it, because you have to pass all these tests. So it really made me learn all the little tiny fine details that the Apple looping just did for me. I didn't have to learn it. So I'm very thankful for that. I actually still, even a year later, I'm still fine-tuning my settings on the Android. There's just so many different settings, but there's a lot of Facebook groups for looping if anyone's ever interested. I'm not recommending anyone do anything. I am not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm simply just sharing my own story and my own journey. So anyhow, feel free to comment or let me know your own story, and thank you so much for listening.